Revolutionary greetings, comrades. Angola has just concluded its elections. We did a brief video last time analyzing the election campaign in Angola. The ruling party PLA has won with 51% of the vote, beating UNITA, which got 44% of the vote. It was a tight contest. So we congratulate the ruling party PLA and the people of Angola for winning the 2022 elections. But we must point out, comrades, as we said in the last video, that the ruling party in Angola was a Marxist-Leninist. You also recall that I think it was in the 1950s, early 1960s, there was a communist party in Angola. Then it later on dissolved into what today is the ruling party PLA. So the influence of the communist party at that early stage meant that PLA, as it was waging a struggle for national liberation against Portugal, it had to align with the Soviet Socialist Republic and the rest of the socialist bloc. But over the years, since it came into power, of course in the first years, for a number of years, it had to back a civil war, which was sponsored by apartheid South Africa and the United States. And you know that UNITA was a creation of the apartheid state. We know the heroic role played by Cuba in helping Angola. And we also know that Angola housed both MK and the Ziprakaters. This is why, as communists, we support PLA and we congratulate them for winning the elections in Angola. But just like any other liberation movement, it has created conditions where some funny forces, if I were to use that word or use a proper term, reactionary forces are seen by the mass of the people as better than the ruling party. This is why UNITA got a lot of support to an extent that is got up to about 44% of the vote. Liberation movements in their nature, they seem to be battling to address some of the following. The question of secession is always a problem inside the liberation movement. And this is what happened in the ruling party PLA. You remember that when the founding president died, 1978-79, Comrade Eduardo dos Santos became president. There was no succession plan until he handed over power in 2017. When he handed over power in 2017, internal problems began, him and the president, to an extent that his family was arrested, he had to live in exile, he died in exile in Spain. This is a result of failure to manage succession within the liberation movement. It cannot be correct that a former head of state get jailed by the person or that will have taken over from them. We're not saying that a head of state who's accused of corruption should not be jailed. But that's the second problem within the liberation movements: corruption, nepotism, which then pave way for the reactionary forces to mobilize society. Because ordinary citizens would then feel that they would rather support the reactionary forces like they did in Angola with the UNITA, as they are doing in a number of countries. It's because liberation movements find it difficult to deal with the question of secession. They are always accused of corruption, massive corruption, in the state. In South Africa, we are busy reading the finding of the Zondo Commission, corruption inside the state by leaders of the liberation movement. And the loss of key metros in South Africa by the African National Congress, a former liberation movement, is also as a result of one, issues of the absence of a clear succession plan inside the ANC, corruption, nepotism, neoliberal policies. These are the issues that then create conditions for reactionary forces to take over. In 2017, I had an opportunity to have a meeting, a frank discussion. It was before the coup in Harare with the then Secretary for Administration in ZANU-PF, Dr. Ignatius Chombo. And I was raising these issues to say, look, Dr. Chombo, ZANU-PF has created these conditions. That ZANU-PF is corrupt, practices nepotism, it had no clear succession plan at the time we were speaking, and we know that some few months later, the military had to roll their military tanks in the street, forcing then President Robert Mugabe to resign. And the ZANU-PF has not recovered from that. There's no clear succession plan inside the ZANU-PF. So that's the problem with liberation movements. Then this gives rise to the West to sponsor some funny organizations, NGOs, in the name of change in a number of African countries. And you will have some who will hide behind the banner of a trade union movement. We have said that not every trade union movement is progressive. So some of these Western-funded NGOs, they then find fertile ground, particularly in urban centers, to mobilize society, because the liberation movement is corrupt, practices nepotism, and it does not provide basic services to the citizens. So liberation movements must deal with these issues if liberation movements are to remain in charge of the state, or they remain in government. My comrade says, no, Comrade Mabena, don't conflict the governance and the state. Let me stick to governance. We'll discuss the state later on. So these are the issues that the former liberation movement in Angola was battling, to an extent that you need a reactionary movement created by the apartheid regime and the United States of America had to find relevance in the body politics of Angola. We need to correct these issues. We will be looking into other elections that are coming up in our continent. Chad is going to be having its elections. They are due in September. We have not looked into the preparation, so we will try to do a research on Chad, on what is happening there, whether indeed the elections will happen in September. They are due in September. We don't have a date, but we will certainly want to study those elections in Chad so that we understand what is happening in Central Africa. We will also look closer home, Lesotho. You know, Lesotho has had its problems. at some point. Up to now, I think there are issues before SADC. They have not resolved their issues. I'm told the head of state, that is the king, opened parliament a few days ago. And we hope that they are beginning the process of ensuring that elections are going to happen. But we will look into that, because their elections are due on the 7th of October 2022. It would be interesting on our part to look into Lesotho on how far they have gone in resolving their issues. Remember, Comrade President Ramaphosa was at some point appointed as the facilitator. They want to see what progress have been made in Lesotho as they prepare to have their elections on the 7th of October. So they are due. So I'm not sure whether they are going to indeed hold elections on the 7th of October, or elections are going to be postponed. So in our next video, when we look into Lesotho, we have to look into the work of SADC. How far have SADC gone in implementing or in assisting Lesotho? I saw the Prime Minister, or is it former Prime Minister or Prime Minister? I can't remember, but I have to check, who was accused of murder. I think has been the case has been thrown out of the courts. I will have to check. I'm speaking under correction on this one. So we will deal with all these issues when we then look into the elections in Lesotho. Otherwise, comrades, share your views. But the key thing that we are raising is that former liberation movement need to introspect. Because if you cannot deal with corruption, and we have said that you can't deal with corruption in a capitalist economy, I'm not sure whether there's a country that has defeated corruption in a capitalist economy. So we have serious problems with corruption within the former liberation movement. Serious problems with secession. The ANC is going to hold its elective conference in December. It will be interesting to see. I saw some daily newspaper. I think last week I think there were about 7 candidates for the position of deputy president of the ANC. ZANU-PF is to hold its elective congress in October. We'll also look into that. I'm not sure in respect to ZANU-PF, but again I speak under correction. I think in their last congress in 2017, they said they elect only the first secretary of the party, who happens to be president, and then he has the power to appoint central committee members. So we have to verify whether ZANU-PF Congress does elect members of the Central Committee, or they simply anoint the first secretary of the party, who then appoints everyone else, members of the Central Committee, including the Politburo. So we'll also look into that, so that we understand internal democracy inside former liberation movements. Because if some former liberation movements are not democratic inside, then obviously they will never conduct a free and fair elections. Otherwise, comrades, please, let's hear your views about elections in Angola. We couldn't get anyone from a communist party. There's no communist party in Angola, so we couldn't do any interview. And we couldn't get a comrade from Plan, so that was going to give us a class perspective in Angola. But if we do happen to get, we will do so. But so far, we have not been lucky to get anyone to speak to us, so that we understand what has been happening on the ground. So please share this video. Kindly subscribe to this YouTube channel as we continue to engage on these matters. Otherwise, Amandla, comrades.